And we're live. What's going on? What's going on? Tribe Talking on a Tuesday with Miriam. Hey, and one of my favorite people in the whole entire world. Hi, Micah. Micah
Hey.
Powell. Used to be Micah the poet.
Yeah.
Micah. What's up, bro, man? So
I
excited to
love
see you.
It's
I'm sorry, that
I'm
was my last chicken nugget.
okay. I got you. It's great. I'm excited to be here and to talk to you for a little bit.
Mhm.
I do a lot of interviews, but this is it's always good to be talking with them and being in the house.
You
So
can go ahead and say in advance that this is your best one yet. I know we haven't finished it yet. I know we're not done, but it's okay. You can put that on the record. Your best one yet. No, I've been, of course I follow you because it's my job, right? But because I'm tasked by the divine to follow you. But I also just like when I was preparing to have you on and I had my girls, you did your intake interview and everything. There was some press that I missed. And I was like, how did I miss this? When did this get put out? And it was really exciting to just look and see your name and watch your videos and watch you perform. And not like I haven't seen you perform, but I love, you know how I feel about, I'm not a fan of performance poetry. You're the only performance poet. Well, yeah, you're like one of, if there is another one that I like, I don't know their name off the top of my head. Um, but I actually enjoy your work, so it was exciting to see and to find. But we'll get into that. We're going to start as we always do, darling, with your 30-second commercial. You will give us your 30-second commercial. Tell us who you are, what you do, where you're at, all of that. Go.
okay, 30 seconds. My name is Micah the Poet. I am a poet, a orator, a activist, a DJ. I love working in my community, making partnerships in my community. My day job is working at the DC Public Library, coordinating community events, finding books, procuring resources for the community. I love it, love it, love it. But I also am an author as well. I have a book out called Things No One Else Wants to Say. Um, so yeah, you can go to my website, michaelthepoet.com. You can drop me a line about me DJing your party or speaking at your event or writing with you, collabing on any kind of things like that, or just doing a partnership with the community because it's always fun. So that is my commercial.
Well done, my baby. Well done. First person on the show to put in there, and you can hire me. Boom.
Yeah, yes, you can hire me and pay me. I
That should be in your commercial. I feel like that is something that's very important to be in your commercial. You know what I'm saying? What's up? Hi, my name is so and so. Hire me.
I'm payable.
All right. So I met you. I met you when you were you were a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
You were like a bitty bop. I don't even know if somebody were to say how, when, where. I'd be like, I know I was living in New York. I have no idea how this child got there, but
Yeah, I was 14 years old.
somehow or another,
And I
you
just
know,
floated and made my way up to New York, and I was
you
put in
know.
your charge. And you've been one of the greatest mother figures in my life.
Oh, yes,
um,
Josiah. You're the only person Josiah lets me call son. The only one. Everybody else, he's like,
uh,
who that?
Inappropriate.
Inappropriate. It's like cussing. It's like cussing in my house. So let's talk. So I know the last couple of years you've been at the DC Public Library. I'm so proud of you. I'll probably say that a million times through today. So proud of you. But you're doing good work. You've been doing good work over there. Like the events that you've been curating and the conversations that you've been forcing, not forcing, but that you've been making them kind of put face forward. What's that been like working inside of this government institution with, who you are and what you represent and finding ways to platform your ideologies in support of the community?
Um, I think when I first started working, my very first job, I was working with at-risk youth out of college. I was working with at-risk youth, and I think right around then, I decided that like whatever my job was going to be, I just wanted to help people. And I think, praying on that and manifesting that for myself and in my life, the library dropped into my lap. And I think it gave me an opportunity to build bridges and build relationships in communities that I don't want to say were previously ignored, but they just weren't nurtured, right? Like a lot of these programs that I made, they made such an impact because I was only facilitating places that people could be and do the things they already wanted to do. They just didn't have the resources.
Right.
And so being able to work with the government to kind of be a liaison between the community and government access or access to resources for the community and communities that I work for. I think that's what balanced it out for me. I came into it like, the government, is always gonna, and it does, and it's frustrating. Like there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of bureaucracy that I have to work through on any given project. But I think at the end of the day, being able to stay on in these people, like for lack of a better turn of phrase, but in the administration's faces and making sure that they understand that these programs and these events are important and why they're important, and articulating that in a way that's impactful, right? Like anybody can write like a pitch statement, right? But it's a different thing to write a pitch statement that's going to like make a CEO shed a tear, right? Like that's
using your words, which also, add that to your resume, pitch statements. I mean, content creation, you know what I'm saying? Do you need me to expand your, you just said, I know how to do this thing. What do they say? Don't waste good knowledge if you could, don't waste good knowledge, especially if it could make your life a little easier, right?
Right, and I think that's what it's been able, like between my poetry and my technical writing, formal writing, I've been able to really kind of make that urban community lifestyle kind of palpable and something that's supportable to the government that I work for. I'm
sorry, how long have you been at the library?
I've been at the library 6 years.
Yeah.
And
that's a feat. That's a feat. Being inside of DC government, I mean, I was never a DC government employee, and I would never be. I don't have the temperament for it. But as a contractor, I would say to do 6 years, to invest 6 years as or to be able to sustain in one agency, that's huge. Most of the time, if anybody who lasts that long, they're bouncing around. They go from one place to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big deal. That means that they may not know how to properly show you. Because I think they should. I always think anybody and everybody should big you up bigger. But that's a big deal. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. So I have a question for you. It's kind of like it's supposed to serve as a segue from the library to your writing. It might not.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Be clear. Be clear. You perform for the library. It is gonna work. You perform for the library, right?
Yes.
I've seen you perform. I see that they post these videos. They shout you out about your talents and your skills. Have you been able to use that platform in any way to grow the depth of your work outside of the library, do you think? And if so, what did you do? How are you using it? Like, how are you taking those moments and capitalizing on them for your personal career outside of the library?
So Okay, let me make sure I got the question right before I go ahead and answer. So you're saying, how do
Thanks,
I
Katie.
use the opportunities that I get to speak at the library to
Yeah.
kind of
When you're
galvanize or
performing, yeah, how are you turning those opportunities into things that support your work and your mission as Micah the poet outside of Micah the library associate?
I think when it comes to being a poet, the only thing that you really like worry about is being a poet.
Mm,
And I think I'm sure like, your poetry does something and like, affects people and stuff like that. But most poets, we just worry about the poem and like how, the effect that it'll have. But I think working with the library and being able to write poems, especially um when I try different creative projects and things like that. Like this past year, I started doing like, how people draw people on the train.
mm,
So I started like um, observing people while they were living at the library and writing poems about them and
mm,
giving them the poems.
mm,
And so the lessons that I learned through working at the library, meeting people at the library, the experiences that I have performing, working with patrons,
mm,
dealing, with interfacing with my coworkers and things like that. I think it all serves as like fodder for me to want to write poems that are going to do a couple of things that are going to be palpable to people that don't even like poetry, that don't even like to read, that don't even like to listen.
mm,
I want to write things for them, right? I want to write poetry for people that don't really have the words to empower themselves, right? And give them the phrases that they can use later to empower themselves to stand on their own 2 feet in their own ground, and speak with their own voices, right? So but I don't think I would have gotten there just by writing poetry and performing and going to slams and hitting over mics and features. I I really wouldn't have seen what the work does, what the work of a poet does is supposed to do. Because when my mom was, coaching me about being a poet, she was always like, you're the voice of a generation, and that's an important thing. And one day you're going to understand what it means to be the voice for somebody, for people who don't have a
mm.
voice.
Yeah.
Um, and the library, kind of working in the library in that space, made me understand like, wow, like these words have power. Even if and even if they're just mine, I can dole them out in small phrases and small bits to people that wouldn't even have looked at words or
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
I feel like you're saying in some sense also like you, and I think we forget this as artists, right? So when, like, for instance, I'm a theater artist, and anybody can chime in if they agree or they don't. That's in the that's watching. You know, when you are a performance artist or you're an artist and you're standing in, like, say, for instance, the theater, which is my comfort space, or you're performing your poetry on stage wherever you perform, which is your comfort space. The people who come to those spaces are often people who are really into that, right? Like they've bought the ticket because they're interested in theater. They've come to the open mic or they've come to the poetry event because they're interested in poetry, right? Um, but there is a demographic of people that exist that are very interested in these things, but have never, just don't know. They don't know they're interested in it yet, which I think is what you've said. And the library, because those events go out to the community as like, hey, you guys, if you come over here, we're doing this thing that you may not I don't really have no if you're gonna like it, but you might love it. So just come, and it's free, and we're gonna have food and also maybe book bags, whatever it is that gets them to get there and to have this new cultural experience and to expand the what I like. I used to say communities that are culturally underfed. So it's almost like opening up the cafeteria, feeding more people, but you're figuring out how to do it in a different way. I think that's what I was hoping the library was doing for you. And so when I saw, these videos of you performing with the library and the library tweeting your picture out and da da da, which I hope they paid you for outside of your regular check. We can talk about that later. But with
you always think about some money. You always want some money.
what you say, I'm always what.
You always gotta talk about the checks.
I don't just talk about the checks. I talk about your time and your effort. Your time and your effort. And if they're not going to, because that's not in your job description. Doing performance poetry is not in your job description. I can't imagine. Is it?
No,
it's not. That means that's extra work. And they're either expecting you to do it for free because they want to use you in that way, which we will not say okay to, or they need to pay you. Now, the other side of that is if you are capitalizing on it in such a way that it is bringing you income, so them not paying you is kind of like it doesn't matter, then okay, fine, I'll take that. But if you haven't figured out how to do that yet, they need to cut you a check. Yes, I said that. Play with me. But my point was, I think I was hoping that that's what it was doing for you. It was allowing you to be kind of like this bridge, this conduit to for people who would not have normally had access or thought about or even considered poetry as something interesting, to come and to see it and to feel it, especially in the way that you deliver it, and to give them something to look into, to decide if they like it, or to taste it in different places, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's what you were saying. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that's what you were saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. I was trying to convey the best I could, was that, yeah, I think, being able to be that, like I said, be that liaison between
that bridge. Yeah, you're a bridge. That's dope. Like, I'm serious. Do you know how dope that is?
Yeah, I'm starting to. Like, I think
y'all have to understand, this is one of my god babies, right? So when it comes to my babies, there's lots of people you'll see on this show that I love, that I care for, my friends. But when it comes to my babies, the idea of them not understanding the value that they bring to the world, what they contribute, how much they are putting out, that's a problem for me. So you might go ahead and get some secondhand motivation off of this if that's what y'all want to do. But before we hang up this phone, if you're using your phone, I don't know if you use your phone, but before we clank this thing off, you're going to hear me say a million times, do you understand the value in that? Because you're doing really, really dope work, and I'm very proud of you.
I like that.
All right. But that was a segue. That was a segue. Okay. That was a segue into your work. Yeah. All right. So Lacey said she fights for you when you don't even know for yourself that you should be fighting. Possibly. Yeah. I mean, if you need somebody behind the scenes throwing blows, that's what I'm here for. Yeah. And wiping tears. I'm good at that too. But I want to talk about your writing. I also want to tell everybody the story that I tell everybody about Nikki Giovanni. I'm so. Can you tell the story? Because I'm just going to smile and giggle all the way through it. I'm so proud of you.
Well, that's such a mom thing. Right? When I was in college,
Johnson C. Smith, North Carolina.
Yeah, we went to the summit down at James Madison, I believe, JMU. Yeah, and we had a slam. We had a poetry reading, and I guess Nikki Giovanni was a guest. She was a guest feature, and she was going to be performing while over. And she heard me say my piece, and she was like, "Yo, that's really dope. Like, you got to keep doing what you're doing. Like, your words are really powerful."
She gave you a standing ovation. She stood up and she clapped. She got out of her seat. She did. Don't leave that out. She
stood up and she clapped her hands, and afterwards, gave me very good feedback on my poems. And that was a really good shining moment. It's kept me going a lot of years over this poetry game.
And I'm constantly reminding you. Yeah. Remember that time she clapped? She stood up. Just because I also know y'all poets be snobs. Are there any poets in the chat? Y'all poets be snobs. Y'all do not clap for each other. Y'all be like, I heard that line. Somebody said that line the other day. Like, y'all are pretty hard on each other. You're aggressive. Yeah. You're hard on each other. So
it's pretty cutthroat in the poetry game.
It's definitely hardcore. Yeah. So like to get people to get one at that level to stand up and clap for you, that's huge, especially at such a young age. You know, yay! All right, I did not prepare you to perform, and I'm not going to ask you to perform, but I am going to ask you to. I ain't gonna stop you if you choose to, you know. But I do want you to tell us about your book. I want you to tell us.
Okay, I think I have it around here. I put it up because I was like, oh, what if she asked to see my book? And okay, here we go. So this is the book.
I have my copy too. It's in the living room.
It's called Things No One Else Wants to Say.
Show us the cover again. It's so cute.
That's the cover. It's tell us
what's the inspiration behind the cover?
So the name of the book, my brother Ivory actually named the book. We were kids, and the reason why I write poetry in the first place was because I used to journal a lot, and it got to the point where my journals and the things that I would write got to be like pretty powerful, and my mom started noticing that this might be a talent that, you know, we could cultivate. But before all of that, you know, before I even picked up a pen to be an artist or anything, me and my brother used to journal in our rooms. And I was like, if we're going to do all this journaling all the time, you know, we might as well I might as well just write a book or something. And he was like, well, if you write a book, you need to call it Things No One Else Wants to Say, because every time everybody's quiet in the room, nobody wants to say nothing, then you get to talking.
What? No.
And so I was like, all right, cool. Well, whatever, man. I guess if I write a book, that's what it's going to be. And so whenever my publisher came around and offered me, you know, the chance to write a book and everything and the opportunity, I was like, well, I guess I got to name it Things No One Else Wants to Say. Yeah. Because the book is essentially like a memoir. I've been writing poetry for 21 years. This is my first year after my first 2 decades of writing poetry. And I released this on my 30th birthday. 20 years of just straight writing poems, being on people's stages, you know.
For people who can't do math, that means he started writing when he was 10. Just want to put that out there.
Yes, I started writing and performing on stages when I was 10 years old.
For those of you who are slow on math. Not me today.
You gotta keeping them straight. Straight.
I'll put the link in there. Lacey said he needs the link so he can purchase. You will get it for sure.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so just the 20 years of that, and not to mention the 20 years that of actual living that I've done, which is quite a lot. The writing and the reflection and the epiphanies and the pitfalls and the joys and the fall and the sorrows that I had all throughout those 2 decades are all kind of in this book. And so I didn't want to split it into chapters, so I split it into 3 parts. Explained each part of love, life, and family. I explained why and all of that in the book. And yeah, it ended up being a catharsis. I know, like, you know, I know this isn't like my magnus opus, but this is the first real catharsis that I've ever had that people can actually experience with me. And, you know, been doing features for it and doing interviews and performing at different places, virtual and real. Has been a really true catharsis. I'm a big crier. I know you hate when I tell people this, but I cry all the time whenever I'm emotionally affected. And it's
aggressive crying. It's like
yes,
give me this moment. Yeah, it's real.
It's a deep, like, touching cry.
But you know what? I don't hate when you tell people that. Men are allowed to cry. Okay, guys? It is okay if you cry. You should not cry like in the middle of like a fight where you're like defending your girl or something or whatever. I mean, that's weird. I saw like a video on like Twitter and like this guy started crying and I was like, this is an awkward time to do that. But you are definitely allowed to be emotional. I think that I think that that's like, and I tell, Josiah, I'm trying to raise a man. I'm trying to raise a boy, not by myself, but I'm trying my best. He spends the most time with me. And even though like my girlfriends like to joke and say and call me a grown man, we all know I'm a woman. And so there are moments where I have to like look at him and allow him to feel things and like to be upset and to cry and to say something hurt him. Because I hear all the time, like I have a guy friend who's like, you need to stop calling him Toots and you need to da 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 da. He's about to be the man in the house. I was like, he's 7. There's no way in hell he's about to be the man. And also he would never be the man in my house, child. But what the hell are you talking about? That ain't the way this house set up. I don't know what y'all got going on. But if I got to be the lady and the man of this house forever, that's just what it's gonna be. But I appreciate that you are a feeling person, and I think that that's likely why you're so good at what you do.
Yeah, so I finally am to the point now, I think, where I can get through an entire set without crying. I maybe like sob a little in between, but I think it's all been good because I don't think I really allowed myself as a child, and it wasn't because I wasn't allowed to. Let me preface this by saying I have like the best moms.
I was about to say she might be on here, so you might want to watch it. I sent her the link this morning.
So I was allowed to be and feel anything and everything in the world. The problem was I was a perfectionist, right? I wanted to be. I liked my mom, and so I wanted to be someone that she liked as well. And when you're a kid, what your parents like, it gets warped and messed up and everything. And so I didn't allow myself to fully feel.
Don't generalize, because some of us didn't care.
Okay. Right. So I never really allowed myself.
My mama gonna come on here. I'm joking. Go ahead.
I'm tired.
Don't do it. I was just kidding. Go ahead. Keep going, Father.
But I never really allowed myself to really feel all of the things that I was going through that made me write what I wrote. I kind of just wrote it because that was the way that I expressed myself. Painters, when they get frustrated or they get agitated or they're in a mood, they paint, right? They express themselves, and singers sing, and instrumentalists play their instruments. And so when I felt, I wrote, and I didn't give much mind to what was happening to make me write that. Until recently, I written a poem my mom really liked, and she was like, she finally sat down and was like, why would you write something like that? And I don't think I ever asked myself that or allowed anyone to ask me that. Mm-hmm. And so in finishing this book and, kind of going through the journey that is putting it out there in the world, I am totally okay with why I wrote some of these poems, the place that I was in my life when I wrote the poems, who I was, how I presented when I wrote the poems, because all of that is, has transpired in different ways in my life. So, it was a look back on kind of emotions that I never really looked at, and I finally got a chance to do that, and I think it was very, very healing. For me. So
no, I heard you say, and I know this to be true because I've read the book, that you cover a bunch of topics. You go, it's very broad, right? Even though you've broken it down into three sections, it's still a lot of information. You can tell there's a lot of downloading going on in the book, right? So it makes me ask you, like, what is your actual social justice issue? Like, what is your if when we think about legacy and how we measure the impact of our work, like, what is your target issue? What's your social justice issue?
That's really interesting. I get in trouble for this all the time, but I'm gonna frame it the best way I can. My fiance, she always says that I must have came from a long line. A long line of warriors, right? She says I have a very a fighty spirit. My spirit is always fighting. And I think what I've come to know about myself is that there's a lot of things in this world that there's more things in this world that can hurt you than can make you feel good, right? And I think just marginalized people in any way, right? Like there will always be the poor among you has been something it's been a phrase that's been on my mind a lot the last couple of weeks, right? And it makes me think like the poor in spirit, the poor in physically, the poor in nature, the poor in couth, they will always be among you. So what am I to do, right? And I've been feeling like really helpless kind of lately in my fight, and like what am I even fighting for? And I think at the end of the day, my activism comes out most whenever it's my duty to help, right? When it's my duty to stand and help or fight for someone who can't do it for themselves, right? And even if they're not in the right mind frame, right? They just need to sit and talk so that they can get galvanized to be in the right mind frame, right? Like, yeah, and I think,
Okay. I have an offering. I'm going to make an offering to you. You can take it or you can leave it.
Okay.
Okay. So when I asked you what your social justice issue is, or what your mission is, and how your legacy is going to show up for itself, and how it's going to show up for you long after you're gone, right? The reason I ask that is because one thing I know about advocates and activists is when we are broad in our focus, our impact diminishes, because we end up spreading ourselves too thin. We're running around. We're answering every call, right? If someone can't speak for themselves, we're answering the call. If someone is hurt, we're answering the call. And it doesn't matter what it is or what it's about or what they're up against, we're answering the call. And that is actually counterintuitive to the process, to us moving the liberation of our people forward, right? In my opinion. So I challenge you over the course of the next however many years, because you'll be here for quite some time. I challenge you to look back at situations and circumstances and places where you have been working with people and you have been helping people, or you feel like you have worked with someone and you've helped them, and figure out in which ways you were of best service, right? Like where your heart was just like, I can do this. I know how to do this. I have the key to these resources. I don't have to call in reinforcements. I don't have to get back up. I don't have to send this person anywhere. I don't have to refer them out. I know that this is my work. And when you find out what those things are, figure out how you can turn that into the way you are going to assist us. And I say that also because I agree with Barb's. I do think that you have a fighting spirit. I do think that you have warriors on your shoulder that are training you every day. And I think that I know that you are being set up to fall in line with what your thing is. Right? So I'm going to challenge you to bring it in. Like for me specifically, where I used to be like, oh my God, I do playback. So people could come in and talk about this, talk about that, da, 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 da. That's not my thing. I was burnt out. I had to give up. I had to send my kid away. I had to do this, I do that, right? Because it was too much. It was too hard. It was too many things. I didn't know how to process all of the things. What I do now is my job is to support other organizations in collecting data that's going to push their initiatives forward. That is going to be my legacy. When I pass and I go, people are going to say, we would not have been able to get this bill pushed through without Miriam's efforts in collecting this data and turning it into numbers and it being the people's voice on paper. That's what I do, right? Mm-hmm. But it took me 14 years to figure that out. Okay? And I use theater to do that. I'm going to say it may take you a couple years, but you got to figure that thing out. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I think
Because I just want you to go ahead.
I
I'm
mean,
hearing you.
I think that, I work on a broad scope, but I think it's narrowing down for me to really understand that I have a very unique way of communicating with people and uniting people,
I agree.
um, with my language and with my words. And
I
so
agree.
what I've kind of been learning to like do with, I guess, this newfound kind of specificity of like my person is like just understanding like how I can kind of take my words, and my skills, because sometimes I can't really use my words. Like sometimes I have to speak in different languages, or sometimes I have to use sign language, or things that I'm not very good at, in order to get people to communicate and relate to each other. But I'm really, really good at it.
I agree.
And so I guess that's where I'm at with it. And it's not really all the way defined, but I do understand that my writing, has a way of making, kind of making an equal between two groups that previously didn't see eye to eye. And so, in my walk, I hope to, hone in on that.
What you just said is that you figured out your tactic, your strategy. You figured out your tactic, your strategy, right? Your tactic is the way you communicate, the fact that you can go into these different spaces and you can communicate to people. What I'm asking you is, what is that tactic being used for? What is the tool being used for? How is it amplifying what you want to see shifted and changed in the world? I know whatever it's going to be, it's going to be exact. It's going to be absolutely useful, and it's probably something you're already doing right now. And I'm just interested in seeing how you put it into words, because I would love to hear you say it in your words.
When I get there, right?
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? But like that, but because you're doing so much, and that's what I wanted to say. Like I've watched you curate events for Pride and LGBTQI plus community, and I've watched you do literacy events and parent engagement events and health and wellness and riding bicycles, and I've seen you do it all, right?
Yeah.
But I just want to know which one really are you like, this is, I gotta do this, I gotta help with this.
Yeah, and I think that my range is so wide, because I think the third year I was at the library, I did something like 72 events and programs in one fiscal year.
Yeah.
And I was like beat, but I think what I loved the most about it was no matter what the project was, I always got to connect people, and I always got to get people to something that they didn't have before. And it changed them. And I love seeing the change in them. Like with the bike program, like we changed the whole culture in Anacostia. There were no bikes in Anacostia. Our bike rack was always filled in Anacostia before we got the bike program. But it changed the culture to where they had a bike program that was teaching people how to get back and forth across the bridge so that they could get to work. So we were impacting, economic rates. We were impacting, people's own empowerment, because they had jobs, they could sustain themselves, they could pay for their families. And so it was just a whole big thing of and we just got people to talk to each other, you know what I'm saying, and smile at each other and want to create community around each other. And so in all of those projects, I think that component of just being able to walk out on the street and say, hey, come here, let me set you up with this meeting, so we all can talk to them, and we can see how we can improve this, and we can see how we can make this better. And those intersections that people run into whenever you're building, whenever you're community building, they get me so excited, and I'm sorry,
No, please.
going off, but
I'm watching you get excited, which is part of the challenge.
but that's what's most important to me, is like, if you didn't think that it was possible today, after this event, you do now. And so I feel like from my events, I hope that people can pick up a little bit of their own event at my event and come to me, you know what I'm saying? Talk to me so that we can build a community that we all want to live in together. And I think if people see me doing it, it's easy and see, it's easy and see how I do it and, and pay it forward, then, what kind of world could we actually make if people were just doing good, doing right by each other and wanting to be the community that they want to see, right? Like,
so maybe have you ever, similar to, I guess, what I do, have you ever considered connecting with organizations who do actually have a defined mission, a defined issue, and curate their events for them?
Right now I just work with community centers and the library. I have ideas about how to break out of it, but I don't, I'm, like I said, I'm fairly new at it, and I'm just,
I'm sorry. I apologize. This ain't time for me to be trying to vision plan your life. That's not what this is for. That's not what we're here for. That's what I do, though. Like, this is what I do.
Yeah, this
is what I do. I apologize. I apologize to the people. My job is not today to vision plan Micah's life.
We're supposed to make it.
We're supposed to be talking about Micah's book. We're supposed to be talking about what Micah already done did. But just in case, can we go ahead and document that that's something that we should explore?
Yeah.
That's something we should explore, because because you're right. There's huge impact in the way that you've been doing it, and you have a knowledge that most organizers do not have, which is liaising between people and local government, and then on top of that, amplifying the needs and providing the resources. So that's a lot of information, a lot of knowledge that most organizers are not walking in with. They're just walking in with passion and heart. And so you maybe your thing is to link the passion and the heart to the event and using your words to create the space and the atmosphere and the comms that people need to get in and out of those spaces. I don't know. I'm not putting nothing on your heart, putting nothing on your spirit. I ain't putting nothing on you. I love you so much. I told y'all these really just be our phone conversations, and like this is the whole Tribe Talking series. Y'all are just, it's like turning my WhatsApp, my phone conversations, and my chat conversations into a YouTube, and I just hope y'all enjoy it, and maybe y'all pick up something. I don't know. All right, Micah, we're gonna play a game. We're gonna play a game.
Game time.
Game time. Game time. All right, this is called word association. I am going to give you a word. Word or a saying. And you are going to tell me the first thing that pops into your mind, or, well, yeah, it's going to be the first thing that pops in your mind, but it's either going to be a word or you can give me another phrase.
Okay.
Okay. You ready?
I'm going to take some juice.
You ready?
Yes.
My 2 cents.
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown.
I have no idea why.
Charlie Brown.
You said the first thing that came to your mind.
I know. I'm sorry. I know. I'm just interested. I'm interested. I didn't know it was going to lead to me being this interested right off the break. Like, I thought we were just going to go walk through this thing. Yeah. All right, Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown. Okay. Go the extra mile.
Painfully necessary.
Conundrum.
Paradox.
This too shall pass.
Mantra.
What's your favorite mantra?
Life will teach you better than I can tell you.
Your mama said that. I know you got it from your mom. Didn't you? Did you? Who said it? Your mom.
Well, I got it from my mom by way of my granddaddy. My granddaddy used to say it to us all the time.
I love it. All right. Roses.
My mama.
Your mom.
I love her.
Time.
Priceless.
I don't know if I thought you would say that.
I wouldn't have said it a week ago.
What would you said a week ago?
Go ahead already.
All right. All right. I don't know who you talking to. Spitting image.
A mirror.
That's not the first thing that came to your head. Why you didn't say what the first thing was?
I don't know. I felt like it was cliche.
What was it gonna be?
My fiance.
You're getting married.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. You heard that, Bart? Spitting image, that was for you. Okay. All right, last one. The calm before the storm.
Wake and bake. Nope, don't say something like that. We used to.
Micah.
I was doing good, right?
You were. And then you got too relatable. You got too relatable. Like you just had to end on a high note, you know?
I'm just telling everybody in the chat, if y'all was feeling me, just put
I feel like everybody
some type of emoji if you feel me on that.
Micah needs to know if you feel the wake and bake. So what? All right. So, tell me what's your favorite poem that you've ever written. Is it in your book now, or is it something you wrote before?
It changes from time to time. My favorite poem in the book is this poem called Times. It's right at the end of the book. It's my mom's favorite poem, and it's my favorite poem, but it's also my favorite poem because it's my mom's favorite poem. Yeah. I mean, I liked it before, but it like amplified it even more. So there's that poem, and then there's this other poem that I just wrote a couple months ago called "I Don't Mind Being Black." That's my favorite poem right now.
I actually really like that one. That's the one that you did on the porch. No.
Yeah, that was the one I read you on the porch.
I really like that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am just over the moon about it. I
have access to the actual poetry. You guys don't. You gotta buy the book. You gotta buy the books. Oh, that one's not in the book.
That one is not. It's a brand new poem that's probably going to be in the next book. But
okay, no. I wasn't going to ask you to spit, but now because it's not in the book and we're selling the book, we still need you to. You brought it up. You don't got to do the whole thing. Can you do like the first? If you don't do the whole thing though, it's kind of one of those.
I can do times. It's in the book, and it'll probably make people want to buy the book. So let's do that one.
Let's do that.
All
but
right.
I also think that there's a record. Is there a have you recorded yourself doing the I Don't Mind Being Black yet?
Yes, the I Don't Mind Being Black is on the. I did the Emancipation Day video on DC Library. If you go to
yeah, I thought so. I'll share the link. I'll share the link so y'all can have access to it.
Yeah, that is, and it's also in my, I think it's in my author talk as well that I did for DC Library. So either one, the YouTube that I did with the interview or the Emancipation Day, either one is fine. Here we go.
Make sure when you watch it, you post under how great it was and that you hope he got paid.
Yeah. Please leave that. That is the hardest thing for artists to get is feedback. Like, if you guys really like this stuff, just like tell somebody. Like, you don't even got to tell them to buy it or nothing. Just tell somebody that the book was awesome. That actually helps a lot more
also,
than you know.
yeah. I agree with that. I actually said something about that not so long ago. Like after our first show, after our first show, I got all these text messages and like WhatsApps and phone calls and DMs about how great it was. And I didn't even actually realize people were watching it because Facebook doesn't necessarily show you with the way that StreamYard posts. I can't really see how many people actually viewed it. But they're like, oh, it's so good. It's so great. And I'm like, well, he's got 2 comments, like to say it under the picture, say it under the video. It serves a great purpose. It's free and it's a good way to support your friends as they're growing their businesses.
Yeah, and get them gigs, because a lot of times I've gotten turned down some gigs because I don't have reviews. They've been like, you say you're awesome, but who else does?
Yeah, that's very real. All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm excited.
So, this poem is called Times. When I asked you to leave me alone, I meant to say, leave your childish ways and come grow with me. When I told you to shut the fuck up, I really meant, I want to know you're listening. Anger is a protective emotion. When I said you didn't deserve me, I meant to say, we deserve better than the love we're giving each other. It's funny how things just don't come out right when you're mad. I mean, angry. I mean, mad. I'm crazy about you. I remember when we thought falling in love would be fun, like a 90s black sitcom. Now the 21st century has us more worried about retrograde than acting our age. I meant to tell you, none of these fights are worth it. Instead, I just kept nitpicking. It's funny how we lose sight of what's really important, trying to fight for what's really important. When I walked away from you, I meant to stay. I meant to tell you that all I love in this world is you. Instead, I opted for loneliness. The surety of my shadow comforts me more than our love ever could. So that was Times.
Can I get some hand claps and some things in the some response in the chat? Yes. Yes. Congratulations. So good. And I told you as a performer and as someone who trains in speech, one of the things that stresses me out the most about performance poets is the cadence and the breath. It is the hardest thing for me to listen to because I feel like they are just like 2 seconds off of having their voice box just jumping out of their throat. And I love that you center your breath, you take your time, you say the words so that they can be heard, and that your cadence changes from poem to poem as it should, to relay these different feelings, these different thoughts. And I think, if you guys were listening, I don't know who's been here the whole time, who's come and gone, but one of the things Micah was saying before was that he is blessed with a gift of translation, of being able to use his words and speak for other people and to move through different spaces, using his words to support and to amplify and so on and so forth. And part of that is delivery, right? You can have a whole lot of wonderful things to say, but if your delivery is trash, people don't want to hear you. So I really appreciate that about your efforts and the way that you perform and the way that you use your talent, the way you use your gifts. I think the divine has done good work on you. And I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep messing with you because I want you to keep, you're only, you barely broke 30, right?
Yeah, 31. I mean, 32.
Right? Barely broke 30. And, right, because Kareem is 35. So yeah, 31. And that means you got a long time left. And you're just going to keep getting better and keep getting better and keep getting better at it. But you got to take stock in where you're at. You got to take stock in where you're at. So right now, you're the best you've ever been.
Yeah.
You're the best you've ever been.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And that's dope. So the next time I talk to you, the next time I have you on, the next next time I text you, call you, we're gonna check in and see where you are then. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's more than fair. Hopefully, I'll be still doing this work.
Yeah.
Burnt out.
Yeah. Where are you next? What are you doing next? Where are you? Are you spinning anywhere anytime soon? Are you speaking anywhere anytime soon? What do you got coming up?
Right now, I DJ at the Capitol. What was it? Creative Suitland. We have a market and a poetry open mic every Sunday from 12 to 4. And it's right on Suitland Road. And for anybody that lives in Maryland, it's right on Suitland Road, across the street from the Census Bureau. So the parking lot there, we have fresh food. There's a brownie lady out there. She's a man that makes smoothies. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there. And so we run that market. We're running it through October. I'll be there spinning on the 1s and 2s. Feel free to come by, get you some stuff, make a request, do a little dancing. I don't have any poetry things coming up, but if you know anybody that's looking for a poet, you feel free to book me so that I do have some poetry events coming up.
Or you can create an event specifically around Micah.
Yeah, I'm like super dope at that. I can do up to an hour sets and an hour and a half talks. So, holla at me for that. But right now, I'm just promoting on the poetry side. I'm just promoting my book and trying to go to any engagements that I can, pick up features. So just keep up with me at micahthepoet.com. You can keep up with me at Micah the Poet on Instagram. Like I said, you can always drop me a line, drop me a note if you want to do any community partnerships and things like that. Mm-hmm. So,
yep. What's your dream performance venue? I know you've done the Bowery. I know you've done like a couple of really some hitters, but what's your dream venue?
I think my dream venue, probably the inauguration.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when I was younger, and people used to always be like, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" I wanted to be normal, and I also wanted to be poet laureate. And so, that
you wanted to be normal. That's so boring.
Yeah. I wanted to be really, really boring. The boringest.
Most boring. Yeah.
But I always said that I wanted to speak for a demographic and be a poet laureate for a group of people. So hopefully that'll be a venue where I'm in front of the nation or a nation, and I'm using my voice to be theirs. That's my dream venue.
I love that. I love that. All right. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to? I know that I have homework. My homework is to get you all the link to I Don't Mind Being Black, and also to link you to micahthepoet.com, where you can purchase his latest book, Things No One Else Wanted Things.
It's kind of a tongue twister.
Things no one else wants to say. I know my words. Does anybody have any questions that I need to ask now? We're almost out of time.
Yeah, almost out of time.
Okay, Barbara says a classic piece of literature, of course. Very true. Community. Noah says community we will all want together. Yes. Joseph says dope. I love it. You are dope. I love you. We are winding down. I want to say two things. Thank you, Micah, for being here. Okay, Lacey, I'm gonna get it to you. Lacey said, "I just need the link." Lacey is a great musician. It would be really cool to have him play the trumpet, or have him play. He's in Greensboro. Dope musician. I would love to see you guys maybe do like a track.
Yeah, I'm just getting into tracks and stuff like that. I don't have it. I have like no rhythm at all, so I'm just now getting into saying things over the tracks. But I like it. I like it a lot. I'm really getting into it.
He's like a composer. Like he's like all of that. So like he could help you with that. That would be like the next level is getting you an album.
Ooh, fancy.
All right, so we are going to check out. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so proud of you. I can't tell you enough how proud I am of you, Micah the poet, orator, community activist, DJ. Can be found at micahthepoet.com. I will be sharing his links, and next week on Tribe Talking on a Tuesday with Miriam, we will have Ashanti Lilly, an attorney out of Augusta, Georgia, who's going to be talking to us about civil rights and human rights. And you know what I'm saying? We're going to keep it going. We're going to keep it trucking. We're going to keep on killing it. All right. Yes, Lacey. Yes. Poetry over jazz. Let's get it. All right. I love you.
All right. I love you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to y'all later.